What do we know, Bob?
Well, here we are at a memorial to the National Guard of the United States of America. The National Guard fought in virtually every conflict since it was first mobilised in 1918, 1917, 1918, and D-Day was no exception. We're standing right at the top of Omaha Beach, where the Americans came ashore. They came ashore at Utah Beach over on the Potemkin Peninsula, and they came ashore here at Omaha. At this beach here, they had a much rougher time of it. They had a lot of casualties. And actually, looking away behind the camera there, we can see the cliffs where the Rangers scaled up to take control of the guns up in that position. But also, we're standing right on top of the German gun position here. The gun is still in place. And the gun points straight down the beach in this direction, behind this monument. And we'll take a look at that in a moment. On the cliffs behind us over there, we can see other gun emplacements. And you can clearly see why it is the Americans had such a difficult time. Very peaceful. It's kind of almost like Southend-on-Sea in Essex. The beach, people swimming, very carefree. And yet there was all this bloodshed here just not even 70 years ago. It's astonishing.
So where you're standing there, Bob?
Where I'm standing right now is on the top of one of these blockhouses that housed a gun emplacement underneath. There would have been other emplacements on the top here, but there's a fortified gun emplacement underneath, which, although we haven't been down there yet, I suspect it has a field of fire in that direction, a field of fire out to sea, and a field of fire in this direction here. The cliffs that are off to the left here, in the far distance, you won't be able to see them very well on this camera, but those cliffs are where the Rangers scaled up to take care of the very large gun emplacements on the top. This structure just here, with a jetty leading out from it, you can see there's kind of a ramp-like looking structure. That's actually a beached caisson, or a very large floating piece of concrete. There are a whole bunch of those that went directly out to sea from here, and directly out to sea from a position over here, and they formed an artificial harbour. The floating caissons themselves were called mulberry pontoons or mulberry harbours, and I always remember when I worked in the fishing industry off the coast of Essex, there was one of those things that had broken adrift on its way to be towed around to this part of the world, and actually beached, broken its back and beached, and that thing was still there when I was working in the fishing industry. And in fact, when I was a child, I used to remember wading out through the mud to the end there and just go swimming in the pools, etc. around it. They made a whole bunch of these, and they formed these artificial harbours here, and most of them were washed away in the storm that immediately followed D-Day, the storm between the 7th and the 9th of June 1944. The only harbour of any significance that remained, there was a bit of a harbour here, and they landed about 20,000 people through that harbour before it finally broke up. But there was another harbour right down at the other end. I think it was in the Canadian sector off Arromanches, down in the distance there, the far distance. That one, formed in a more or less almost semicircular shape, survived the storm and became the main point of reinforcement immediately post D-Day. Stretching out in this direction is Omaha Beach proper. So the landing started with the Rangers up on the cliffs there. There were field artillery that came ashore here to try and deal with the cliffs and try and provide support over inland, get up on this high ground and provide support in depth. And then the major landings came ashore here. This is Omaha Beach. Further in the distance, out towards that point of land, is Gold, Juno and Sword, which sequentially were British, Canadian, British again. So this is the great scenes from Steven Spielberg's film, Saving Private Ryan. They would have replicated the landings majorly along this beach here, majorly on Omaha Beach. And you can clearly see the geography as it goes up from the beach and it rises onto high ground, why it was so tough to take this area. It's not flat like the Cotentin Peninsula. Here the Germans would have occupied all of that high ground, would have brought a lot of fire down, a lot of enflading fire coming along the line of the beach. They would have been firing artillery from over the horizon to land on the beach, being spotted by Ford observers on those slopes onto the troops as they came ashore. And also bear in mind here as well, the landings were done at low water. Right now we're close to high tide, the sea is right up here, but at low water the tide would have been further out. So the troops had to come through, swim, wade, and then through all these obstacles with barbed wire and everything, entanglements, slowing them down. An absolutely monumental undertaking of 130,000 troops, I think, coming ashore in the first 24 hours. Just extraordinary. And over the next 3 to 4 weeks, more than 2 million troops coming ashore, I think it was. I think actually that's a bit of an exaggeration. We had 2 million troops prepared. I think about 880,000 or something like that. A little less than 1 million troops came ashore over these beaches during the Battle of Normandy. In the fullness of time, a total of more than 2 million troops came ashore, but the Battle of Normandy, just under 1 million. Absolutely extraordinary.